Guys, the process of resale is as follows. First thing we do is we generate listings. There are many sources, many ways to generate listings. Can you name some of them? Calling the owners or referrals. That is the one of the strongest. Amar, can you switch on the AC? Put both of them on 18, bro, please. Thank you.
Checking with security at least.
There are many, so yeah, getting the people, generating listings. So first thing, you generate listings. Once the listing is generated, you need to run a competitive market analysis. How do you do a market analysis? What do you do CMA for, and what does it mean? Ahmed?
Property market first.
That is the strongest way. Why?
Because it's the actual one.
So you want to know the real value, how much does this property really worth? Okay. And you do this also when you have a buyer. When you have a buyer and when you have a seller, first thing you should do is CMA. It doesn't have to be an official valuation, but you conduct a CMA. Means you go to Property Monitor, you go to the portals, you see what are the prices of similar properties, at what prices they have been sold, to understand a fair, reasonable value of the property. Bless you. Then you have to collect documents. What documents do you need? Title deed, passport, title deed and passport of the. Guys, please switch off your Wi-Fi. Switch off my Wi-Fi also. When you get the documents, you will generate a seller's agent agreement, which is Form A. It's a one-page contract, details of the property, details of the agent, details of the owner. Means the owner is saying that I have no objection for my property to be listed at this price by this agent. You need to check it for me. Nah? So basically, you cannot go ahead and advertise any property that you wish. Any property that somebody over the phone told you that, okay, I have unit number 2304 in 23 Marina, I want to sell it for 4 million dirham. You cannot go ahead and advertise it unless and until you have advertising permit. Advertising permit, you need to get it from RERA, from a website called Tarakhisi. To get the advertising permit, RERA needs some documents to be uploaded. The documents that RERA needs, number one, the title deed or the certificate ownership. It could be a title deed, it could be uqud of the property, or SPA. If Tarakhisi accepts uqud or title deed. So if a property is not registered with land department, it's not a legal contract. Remember last time I said, a sales and purchase is not valid unless and until it's registered with Dubai Land Department. Uqud it has to be. Yes, SPA is a certificate of ownership, but not good enough for advertising permit. Not recognized by Dubai Land Department unless and until it is registered with Dubai Land Department. So title deed or uqud plus ID of the owner, if it's a company, license plus passport copy of the signatory, if it's an individual, passport or Emirates ID. You get these documents and the Form A, seller's agent agreement, which is a one-page form. It's an agreement between the agent and the seller saying that you have this property, these are the details of your property, these are your contact details, and I am your agent. You have no objection for your property to be listed at this price. And at the end, once my time and efforts lead to a conclusion, means when there is a closing, I will be eligible for this much commission. So you mention the commission, you mention the details of the property and the price that the seller or the landlord has no objection for it to be advertised. Once you collect the documents, seller's agent agreement, ownership document, seller's passport or Emirates ID, then you will get advertising permit. It's not your job, it's the job of the admin. Advertising permit, the sales admin will get the advertising permit. Means Khadija will upload the documents on Tarakhisi website and with the contents of the advertisement, what you want to write as description of the ad, and will get an advertising permit. With the advertising permit, your sales admin will get a RERA permit number. This RERA permit number has to be mentioned wherever and whenever you advertise the property, whether on social media or the properties portals, wherever. Okay, so whenever and wherever you advertise any property, either a project from a developer or a unit in the secondary market, Khalil make sure to put the advertising permit number. Even if it's a project and you're promoting it direct from the developer, make sure to get the advertising permit. And then you will arrange a viewing, photo shoot. First thing you do, you have to see the property yourself. You need to take a photographer, videographer, take photos, take videos, and understand the property. What are the issues, what are the problems, what are the features. Then you can publish your listing, advertise it, share it on social media, share it, send it by WhatsApp to the agents. You have the checklist, right? You will put it on the real estate groups. You will broadcast it to the agents, broadcast it to the clients, put it on your social media as a story, as a post, blah, blah, blah. You get a client, you take the client to viewing. Once the viewing is done, you will generate a sales and purchase contract, and it has to be through Dubai.Rest app only. The sales and purchase contract between the buyer and the seller has to be through Dubai.Rest app only. You can do it by your mobile or you can do it by desktop also. Dubai.Rest app is the major and main tool recognized by RERA. So all the contracts has to be on Dubai.Rest app. Once the contract is generated, seller will apply for transfer NOC. In case the property is developed and managed by I'mar, what the seller will do, seller how to apply for NOC from I'mar? I'mar? Transfer NOC? I have a 3-bedroom in Camellia. I'm selling it for 2.1 million. Okay. So I generated the Form F through Dubai.Rest app. What is the next step?
Next step, email your MOU to I'mar.
How to apply for NOC?
Email this. Go there.
The seller will open I'mar One app, and over there goes to the services and requests for transfer NOC. Ownership transfer NOC by I'mar One app. Okay. So what does NOC mean and what is it good for? Why the seller has to apply for NOC?
It states that you don't owe any.
There are no dues, you don't owe anything, you don't owe any installments, you don't owe any service charges, there are no dues payments to the developer. It means that payments, financials, everything between the owner and the developer is clear, or the owners association is clear, or the facilities management clear. The owner doesn't owe anything to the facilities management, doesn't owe anything to the owners association, doesn't owe anything to the developer, doesn't owe anything as installments. So everything is clear. The property there are no issues between the owner and the developer. These days NOC doesn't have to be original, it can be a soft copy. And it's internally connected through the system.
What happens if we receive an invoice after the NLC for the same unit?
Invoice for what? Service charges. Let's say you are selling a property today. Okay, today is what? 22nd of February. When it comes to I'mar, the previous statement of service charge that you received was, let's say, from 1st of January till end of March. Okay, so till end of March, the service charge has been paid. You're settled. Okay, so when you go for the transfer, at the time of transfer, okay, whatever service charge the owner has paid from the date of transfer has to be calculated on pro rata basis and has to be returned by the buyer to the seller. Second, if the property is rented from the date of transfer, whatever rent the seller or the landlord has received from his tenant has to be calculated on pro rata basis and must be returned by the seller to the buyer. Clear?
Unless not agreed to.
Unless not agreed to. But basically, as per default, if nothing is mentioned, it has to be calculated on pro rata basis. Service charges must be returned, must be paid by the buyer to the seller. Rental income, pro rata basis. Rental income must be paid by the landlord to the buyer or by the seller to the buyer. So you will calculate it on pro rata basis. Let's say a property is rented for 365 days. Because I don't have a whiteboard, that's why I'm giving you round figures. Property is rented for 365 days. When I do the transfer, from the date of transfer until the expiry date of the agreement, or until the day that I have received the rent, there are 120 days left. It means on the day of transfer, the seller has to pay 120,000 to the buyer. Service charges must be calculated on pro rata basis, the buyer has to pay. Because the service charges is on the account of the seller until the day of transfer, no matter what is the date of MOU. Transfer of ownership. Rental income belongs to the owner, belongs to the seller until the day of transfer. After that, it belongs to the buyer. What else should I do at the time of transfer, other than calculating service charge and rental income?
Inspection.
Tenancy deposit check. Rent deposit. The rent deposit check must be given, the amount of the rent deposit must be, because the seller has already received it, right? So he will have to give the rental deposit, pay it to the buyer. What else?
Deposit.
You need to go to the tenant and change the tenancy contract. Same terms, same conditions, new owner. So if there are more checks which are not cashed yet, those checks must be returned to the buyer and exchanged with new checks in name of the new owner. When you go to the trustee office, and the day you go to the trustee office, after generating the contract on Dubai Rest app, you will upload the documents. Buyer's passport, seller's passport, Form F. You need to upload it on the Dubai Rest app. You can do it by desktop or by mobile. Seller gets a link, has to click on the link, go through the terms and conditions of the contract, click on OK. That OK is the digital signature of the seller. Buyer also will receive a link, reads the terms and conditions, click on approve, click on confirm, that is signed. That means the contract is signed. Now, the agent can export the contract to a PDF file and put it in printed also. At the end, you will get a reference number. That reference number is what you need to execute your transfer. Simply, you will send it to the trustee office together with the documents. Dear trustee office, I'm having this transfer in your office. This is the reference number. These are the documents. So they will prepare everything. Now everything is in the system. It's already prepared. Seller, buyer, they will go. They will sign. Seller gets his manager check. Buyer gets it. Khadija check. Who is this, please? Buyer gets his title deed. Questions?
I'll just any way for anybody to misuse this process. You know, I'm thinking if someone is buying and say, okay, if that's the way it can be, is there a way that someone can misuse?
What do you mean? How?
You sell someone else's property.
How can you sell someone else's property?
I'm asking.
No, when you go to the trustee office, they will check your ID. First of all,
Trustee office,
the mobile number.
who has to be
When I'm generating the contract, the link cannot be sent to someone else because I cannot put the seller's mobile number or email address manually. It's automatic by the system. Whatever is registered in land department. Whatever is, no, not Emirates ID, land department. Whatever contact details you have in the land department, that mobile and that email will get the link. This is number one. Secondly, let's say by mistake it goes to someone else and someone else clicks on approve. When you go for the transfer, they will ask for your ID and they'll ask you to confirm the deal. In the trustee office, original seller, original buyer, or their legal power of attorney holders.
What if they're not here? So you have to have a legal representative.
Yes. Back in the days, we had an online transfer process that is stopped already. So original seller, original buyer, or their legal power of attorney holders. How do you make sure that the power of attorney is legal and it's not fake? There is a link. You go to the link, you put the number, and it will tell you if it is a valid power of attorney or not.